Karen called my brother's jacket a threat. He's a four-star general in the U.S. Army. My brother didn't speak for a full 20 seconds after she said it. He just stood there, boots planted, jaw set, as Karen Wellington, self-appointed enforcer of everything beige and bland in our HOA, pointed at his old camo field jacket hanging by my front door and said, "That kind of aggressive imagery has no place in this neighborhood." Let me back up. My name's Alyssa. I moved back to Red Ridge Summit last fall to help care for my mom after her stroke. Quiet place, gated, lots of fake smiles, trim lawns, and passive-aggressive newsletters. I inherited the house when Dad passed. He was career Army, just like my brother. I figured the quiet would help Mom recover. It did until Karen got involved. See, Karen's not just on the HOA board, she is the board. At least, or that's what it feels like. No one's seen the actual bylaws. She claims we all signed off years ago. The rules are ever shifting. No Halloween lights, no flags unless pre-approved, no unapproved exterior displays, whatever that means. And now apparently no camo either. That day, my brother Elijah had just flown in from D.C. He's currently stationed at the Pentagon. Full general, 4 stars, 40 years in. I hadn't seen him in months. He dropped his old camo jacket on the porch hook, the same one Dad used to hang his gear on, and we were sitting inside catching up when Karen knocked. She didn't even say hello. She just pointed and said, "You'll need to take that down. It's hostile. We've had complaints." Elijah stood, walked out, looked at the jacket, then back at her. "Hostile." She crossed her arms. "This is a family-friendly community. Military paraphernalia promotes violence. The HOA forbids war symbols on display." I stepped between them. Heart pounding. That's a service uniform. My brother's a general. Karen's eyes narrowed. "I don't care if he's the Pope. It violates our appearance code." We didn't argue. We didn't threaten. Elijah just said, "Noted," walked inside, and closed the door. But I knew that look, the stillness, the resolve. The man's been to war zones with less tension than that porch. By the next morning, the HOA had taped a warning notice to my door. First strike, it read in red. Removal of military attire required. Possible escalation to fines or sanctions. Sanctions. For a jacket. We didn't even get time to process it before it went public. One of the teens down the block had filmed the whole thing and posted it online. The caption lady says, "Camo is aggressive, dude, turns out to be a 4-star general overnight." It had 100,000 views, then 1 million, and now it was war. But not the kind Karen thought she was ready for. Because while she thought she was protecting the image of peace and civility, she was about to learn something the hard way. Real peace isn't maintained by silence or beige siding. It's built by sacrifice, honor, service. And my brother, he wrote the damn handbook on that. The next HOA meeting was standing room only. Karen had tried to close it off a member board only, but Elijah walked in, full dress uniform, medals and all, and said, "Ma'am, I believe I am very much a member." He spoke softly, calmly. "Ma'am, with all due respect, your letter refers to my uniform as aggressive imagery. I've worn this while rescuing hostages. I've worn this during peace negotiations. I've buried friends in this. It's not aggression, it's protection. And if you think that offends the people here, then maybe it's not the jacket that's the problem." Silence. Dead silence. Then someone clapped. Then a few more. And then the room erupted. Karen banged her gavel like a toddler with a pot lid. This is a violation of HOA order out of turn. But no one listened anymore. Later that night, someone taped a copy of the HOA's rules to my mailbox. Except it wasn't signed. No author, no signatures, no timestamps. Just a list of expectations. I started asking questions. I asked around for board minutes, budgets, meeting notes. No one had seen them. Turns out, Karen had been running the HOA off an old template never officially registered with the county. No elections, no transparency, What we thought was an HOA was just a loud woman with a printer, and my brother's jacket, it had become a symbol. The next day, 5 more neighbors hung camo jackets on their porches. By the weekend, there were flags, pins, letters from veterans groups. A retired Air Force colonel from 2 streets over knocked on my door and said, "It's about time someone stood up to her." Karens tried to push back, sent more warnings, threatened legal action, told local news we were militarizing a peaceful neighborhood. That's when Elijah did something I didn't expect. He filed a federal complaint, not just about the jacket, but about the entire HOA. Because it turns out when you claim to govern property rights under false authority, restrict federal uniform displays, and threaten military personnel with sanctions, you don't just get clapped back, you get audited, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the state attorney's office. Even the local zoning board got involved. Karen didn't see it coming, but we did, and what we found next would blow this whole thing wide open. The funny thing about tyrants in suburbia, they usually fold when you shine actual light on them, but not Karen, not at first. She doubled down. After Elijah filed the federal complaint citing the HOA's fabricated authority, harassment of a decorated military officer, and unlawful suppression of constitutional expression, we figured she'd back off, maybe disappear, tail between her legs. Nope. She sent out a neighborhood-wide email titled "A Call for Order in the Face of Chaos." In it, she accused my brother of inciting division, escalating tensions, and threatening the aesthetic harmony of our homes. She even tried to claim that veteran symbols were not inclusive to all residents. That's when everything tipped. One neighbor, a Marine amputee named Jose, wrote back with a public reply so sharp it went viral on its own. "I lost my legs, you could worry about garden symmetry and peace. If a jacket bothers you more than corruption, you are the threat." After that, the floodgates opened. Stories poured in. People shared how Karen had fined a widow for a floral wreath on her door, how she ordered a single dad to remove his son's toy basketball hoop because it was too urban, how she told a mixed-race couple they couldn't host a barbecue without prior board review. None of it had ever been legally documented. She used threats, paper printouts, and intimidation, and she'd gotten away with it for years, until now. Elijah's complaint had triggered a federal review, not just of Karen's actions, but of the HOA itself. Within days, 2 officials from the state attorney general's office showed up to conduct interviews and inspect the HOA's filings, or lack thereof. They visited our house on a Tuesday. Maya, my teenage neighbor, baked cookies. We handed them every piece of paper we had warnings, fake fine notices, and that ridiculous first strike camo letter. 30 minutes later, they were knocking on Karen's door. She didn't answer, but we watched from the sidewalk as they taped an official notice of investigation to her front window, the same place where she used to hang little flyers about lawn decor violations. Oh, the irony. A week later, the state issued a cease and desist order to the Red Ridge Summit HOA, citing failure to file as a legal HOA entity, operating under fraudulent authority, discriminatory enforcement of appearance standards, violations of free expression under federal law. Karen was finished, and yet, somehow, she still didn't get it. The day after the order, she called a private meeting of select neighbors at her home. Problem is, someone leaked the invite. I went. So did Elijah. So did about 20 others who'd had enough of her gaslighting, her fake rules, and her smug little smile. Her living room was immaculate, cold, sterile, the scent of lemon cleaner and false superiority. She stood at the front like she was giving a TED Talk. "We are under siege," she said, "by people who do not understand the purpose of an HOA. If we let military uniforms hang from porches, what's next? Guns, political flags, disorder." Elijah didn't raise his voice. He never does when he's about to deliver a truth that guts the room. "Ma'am," he said, "do you realize you've been running a legal fiction? There is no HOA. You never filed. You forged control. You intimidated seniors, veterans, and children." Karen scoffed. That's a matter of interpretation. No, Elijah said, walking forward. That's a matter of law. He placed a thick folder on her coffee table, copies of the state's findings. Everyone leaned in. Some gasped. One woman clutched her chest. Karen just stared, trembling. The color drained from her face, and in that moment, you could see the exact second it broke inside her, the illusion of control, the fantasy of authority. The clipboard queen had been dethroned. 2 days later, she moved out, overnight, packed a U-Haul and vanished at 3 a.m. But the damage she left behind, that would take longer to fix. The community voted this time, officially to form a new, properly registered neighborhood council. Elijah didn't want to run for anything, but they named him honorary advisor anyway. I helped draft the new charter. We rewrote the bylaws from scratch. No fines without hearings. No aesthetic rules based on personal taste. No suppression of military or cultural expression, period. And best of all, the very jacket Karen tried to ban. We had it framed and displayed at the new neighborhood clubhouse. A plaque beneath it reads, "In honor of those who serve not just overseas, but at home against injustice of any kind." The news picked up the story. National outlets, military pages. Even a few late-night talk shows ran clips of Elijah's HOA meeting speech. People started calling Red Ridge the neighborhood that fought back. And for a while, it felt like a victory. But I'd be lying if I said there weren't still scars. Some neighbors, those who'd quietly cheered Karen on, still muttered about the good old rules. Some rolled their eyes when kids played music from porches or veterans flew their unit flags. Change is hard, especially when it threatens the illusion of control. But there was one moment that made all of it worth it. It happened on Memorial Day. We held a community cookout, first official event under the new council. The sun was out. Kids were everywhere. A row of folding chairs lined the sidewalk where we'd set up a stage. Elijah was speaking simple words, heartfelt thanks, and beside him sat Jose, Maya, and 2 other vets from the area. When he finished, the entire park stood and clapped. No one needed a HOA rule to tell them to. And then, out of nowhere, a kid, maybe 10, ran up to Elijah and saluted. "Thank you for standing up to her," he said. Elijah knelt, returned the salute, and said, "It wasn't just me. That moment, that was our new HOA. Not a power trip, a promise." Call to action. Was Karen a villain or a symptom of something bigger? Do HOAs help protect communities, or do they empower the wrong kind of control? And when does aesthetic order cross the line into discrimination? Comment below. We want to hear your take. What does your flag, your uniform, your porch say about you, and who gets to decide?